Hello and welcome. It's Christmas 2023, Christmas Day, and I thought this would be a good time to discuss certain things and explain. This world right now is really upset and down with this whole situation with the war with Palestine and Israel, and I wanted to help you maybe understand a little better so you're not so confused and embittered and a feeling of hopelessness. Um, I am in a unique position to explain what's going on to you because of several factors. One of them being that I'm from the Middle East. At least I was there till I was 11 years old. Another is that I have Muslim family on one side and a Jewish family on the other side. And I grew up in America, so I know the mentality here very well, or the Western way of thinking. And I happen to be an expert on everything about Judaism, Islam, Christianity, and the Urantia book. That's given me a unique insight into the situation, and I think I can maybe help some of you understand this a little better. If you saw my other video about the problems of evolutionary religions, which if you haven't, it would probably help if you see that first. So I explain things a little more thoroughly than I'm going to here. Basically, the essence of the problem are these religions that disallow themselves from evolving, and they stop where they were whenever they were born. So all religions are born, and so far, they've all died eventually. When they're of no use, usually they're updated or upgraded, or another prophet or another book or something else will come, capture the people's imagination and offer solutions for the problems of that day. The problem with most of these evolutionary religions, that includes Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, and I'm sorry if I have to think sometimes, I don't, this is all off the cuff, I don't make any kind of a script. So it's just what I know. There's so few of us that can understand this stuff anyway, apparently. So I'm not going to go through this whole production. What I prefer to do from here on is just very impromptu, off the cuff videos very quickly, without a script, without anything fancy, just so I can increase the time that I have for sharing and teaching instead of doing video work. The problem are these evolutionary religions because they refuse to evolve. Now, why do they refuse to evolve? In other words, why do we listen to a set of guidelines from 3,000 years ago with Moses, or 2,000 years ago with Paul, or 1,400 years ago with Islam? Now, the reason I say Paul, for those of you that don't know, is that Christianity is not the religion of Jesus. It's the religion about Jesus as created, formed, organized, and taught by Paul of Tarsus, or rather Saul of Tarsus, became known as St. Paul. It's his religion, really. And although it's about the religion of, although it's about the life story of Jesus, it does not follow or teach the actual religion of Jesus. We can get into that. I'll be reading a lot more from Jesus' statements and trying to unpack them for you as time goes on. That's something I definitely want to do. The problem with these evolutionary religions, and all of them, is that they're basically a snapshot of some other time that's been frozen or crystallized or petrified, because it can't evolve. Now, why can't it evolve? Why can't we update it, throw away the useless stuff that maybe people 3,000 years ago believed, but are now completely irrelevant, and we've simply moved beyond those kinds of things. Why can't they do that? Because they all have a supposed holy book and the story of their prophet, and these two become combined to a virtual rock that becomes eventually actually a stumbling block to the evolution of that race or that religion. They can't evolve because supposedly that's the word of God. Just like the Jews have the Torah. They believe that's the word of God. No errors in there. Nothing needs to be updated. It's forever perfect. Then we have, of course, Islam with the Quran. And that's supposed to be something that's perfect. The word of God came from Gabriel. Never needs to be updated. Never needs to be changed. There are no errors in it. And what else do we have? Oh, yes, the New Testament with the Christians. The Word of God, surprise, surprise, doesn't need to be updated or changed. It's forever good. And of course, the problem with that is that it's negating the fact. It's refusing to comprehend and accept the fact that humans evolve and we get better. We know more. And so their religions, because it's believed to be the word of God and perfect, no changes ever needed, complete for all time, it becomes a stumbling block for those people because they cannot evolve past it. Let me give you an example. Quran came to Arabia around 1400 years ago, and back then women had no rights at all. If you wanted to divorce a woman, all you had to do is say, I divorce you 3 times, and then you could literally throw them out, and they would have no rights to anything. They could literally turn homeless. So essentially, they were in servitude, voluntary or involuntary slaves, because you had no rights. Also, there was a lot of drunkenness. These people examined this stuff, like what was Arabia before Muhammad and the Quran. What was it like? It was supposedly sort of like a Wild West. A lot of gambling, a lot of addiction to gambling, a lot of basically what we remember as pagan behavior, a lot of drinking, a lot of drunkenness. There were over 1,000 gods. Everybody had their own god, supposedly, and you prayed to those gods before you went to war with the other tribe. And whoever won, that meant that their God is stronger. So this is what was going on. There were no rules, there were no laws, there were no courts, there was no police. It was just instant justice brought by your tribe. Hopefully you were born into a strong tribe that could dispense justice and protect you, because there was no police and there were no courts. There were no laws. It was really a wild, crazy place. So what the Quran brought and why it caught on, why it caught fire and spread, is because for that time, it represented progress. So we look at Islam now and say, well, why does it only give 50% rights to women? You have to remember, you can't look at religions from your own viewpoint thousands of years later. At that time, when women had no rights, Quran was actually giving them 50% rights to everything, or whatever the percentage is. I'm sure it's less than 50, because women were still looked down on. We still hadn't evolved to a point where we could see women as equals. Okay, but it was something. It was one step forward, and because of that, it constituted and represented and became actual progress for the people that lived there. It brought laws. It brought laws about what you could do, how you could trade, your relationship with the world, with God, who you could have sex with, who you couldn't. Obviously, a lot of this stuff makes no sense to us, but just so you understand, back then, in Moses' time, I'm sure in Muhammad's time, you could marry both a mother and her daughter at the same time. And just imagine, and you could take as many as you want, and they have no rights. And if they do anything that displeases you, you can literally make them homeless immediately. So this was what was going on at that point. So these are ancient times. Our lives today are vastly better than they were back then. I don't care where you lived in the world. Um, so it also stopped gambling. You're not allowed to gamble. It stopped drinking. You're not allowed to touch alcohol. So when we look at it now and say, why is it so strict? Why is a Muslim never allowed to even touch a bottle of anything that has alcohol in it? Why does it have to be so strict? Why is it so military? These questions can only be answered by understanding that what you see now with Islam is a snapshot of something that was born 1400 years ago in that environment, in that society. So it's strict, it appears strict that way because at that time it had to stop. Let's say, why does it say you can never even touch a bottle of alcohol? Because at that time alcoholism was rampant. So this was, Quran represents a reaction to the desperate times. Why did it say you can have only 3 or 4 wives? Because before it, you could have as many as you want. So these were all progress for that time, but viewed from our perspective in our time, they seem, well, I mean, what? Women only get a certain percentage, so much less than men. Why? This must be a primitive religion. Well, that's because we have evolved to a different place in history. And we're looking at it with modern eyes. And we're not comprehending that for that time, this book, this religion, with all its faults, represented progress. Also, because there were so many gods during that time, this idea of there being one God, the monotheistic ideas that were already accepted by many other people. The Persians had Zoroastrianism, which was monotheistic. The Judaism, of course, had the one God, even though it was the God of Israel. And many other places had already accepted monotheism, but Arabia was lagging behind. Not only that, all of these tribes were warlike, and you couldn't just say your God doesn't exist, there's only one God, without getting into a big fight. Just imagine what things were like back then. So because of that, this religion that tried to instill these ideas, which again seem primitive and backwards to us, but were useful and progressive for their time. These laws, sorry, I just lost my train of thought. My phone's ringing. Anyway, they are no longer relevant, but because of that, when we look at this snapshot of, this time in history, when you're looking at these religions, it's like you're looking at a snapshot that was taken 1,400 years ago. So still to this day, because people can't evolve past it, or at least understand that there are certain things that are no longer needed and certain things that we know better. We know that volcanoes don't erupt because the god of that volcano has gotten angry. Do we believe that? No, but everybody believed it back then. We know that earthquakes happen because of tectonic plate movements. They didn't know anything about that. The earthquake, came because some god or another was angry at you and was getting even because you didn't offer enough sacrificial offerings, or you didn't listen to your holy book, you didn't listen to the shamans. Your field of agricultural field failed, and half your population went through famine and starvation because you had done X, Y, and Z incorrectly in an attempt to appease whatever god they thought was in control of agriculture at that time. These ideas, a lot of them are still with us, but if we cannot move past them and update our ideas, we're going to evolve anyway. It's just your ideas are going to crystallize, and you are going to crystallize if you believe that what was written way back then was perfect and complete and never needs to be updated. The second you do that, you are refusing to understand and accept that humanity is constantly evolving. Every single day, we're getting better. We know more. Doesn't mean we don't make mistakes, doesn't mean the world was a great place, especially right now. But believe it or not, if you look at history from 10,000 years ago to 5,000 to 3,000, 2,000, 1,000 down to today, and look at the lives they led and the things they believed, and look at where we are now, there is no choice but to accept that we're getting better. And the way people will live 1,000, 2,000, 10,000 years from now must also be better than how we're living now. And they have definitely corrected some of the things that to us seem perfectly legitimate to believe. And yet for them, they're going to know for sure that they were wrong. So if we were to create a religion right now, and somebody came and said, "Oh, that's perfect. There's nothing else needed. That book is perfect for all time and never needs to be updated." That religion that today might be really great and progressive, helpful, will, to those people living 10,000 years from now, be a stumbling block. Because if there are people saying thousands of years later that what we talked about, what we created right now was so perfect and so amazing that it never needs to be changed, well, guess what? Humanity has evolved by then. They have evolved beyond a lot of things that we don't know about yet. And hopefully by then they'll know that you have to delete the errors and uphold what was true and add the new things that you understood because of that evolution. So these people that are under the spell of these evolutionary religions can't help but make mistakes because they're going to react, they're going to create a culture, a religion, a society that is basically, to some degree or another, founded on that frozen picture of time from thousands of years ago. And because we've evolved and we know better in a lot of ways, those religions become stumbling blocks because you cannot evolve past their errors. And so you're going to continue making errors. And that is going to create conflict for you. Let's say what's going on right now with Israel and Hamas and all that. One of them is radical Islam, and one of them is apparently radical Judaism. Neither one of them accepts that evil can only be vanquished through love. Only Jesus taught that. Both of these olden religions, which again, for their time, they were great. Let me give you an example. The Jews to this day can't make, let's say, a picture or a painting of a person, of Moses, let's say, or anybody in religious services. Why? Because when this religion was born, people were worshiping statues and images. It was a very, very big problem. Any of you who are aware of the story of the golden calf at the base of the mountain while Moses was getting the commandments knows this problem. People had a tendency to worship statues that they made with their own hand. And so, again, there had to be this strong effort to eradicate that. So what was that strong pronouncement? Never make an image. Never make a statue. So now let's fast forward 3,000 years. Are we still worshiping golden calves? Anybody in this world? Anybody still worshiping statues, bringing offerings to statues, thinking those are gods and those that? No. So do we need to still have that law? No. But can we get rid of it? No. Why? Because the people that subscribe to these religions believe that it's whole, is perfect, and never needs to change, and never needs to update. The greatest catastrophic mistake you can make with any religion is allowing it to crystallize this way, to get frozen. So both the Jewish people and the Palestinians are subscribed to religions that believe an eye for an eye. The idea that anybody with open eyes should be able to get past. The idea that you get rid of evil by pouring more evil on top of it. Has it ever worked? No. It's been the same kind of philosophy since we were living in caves. Cavemen believe the same thing. Has it worked? Has it ever worked? No. But can they change it? No. Because why? Because they're subscribed to these religions that teach it. So these religions are actually holding them back. And they're stopping them from evolving. Not only that, they're also causing the kinds of problems that we see today. Bethlehem in ruins. Let's get to Christianity. Christianity, again, is not the religion of Jesus. The religion of Jesus was that every single human being is a son or daughter of God, has inherent rights, can contact the Creator, can ask for things, and taught that this Creator is a God of love, and that the only way you can vanquish evil is through love. But Christianity was something that was created by Paul, who lived in Rome at that time. And despite his best efforts, the religion of Jesus was not going to catch on. It still is very difficult to catch on because people are not able to get beyond their selfishness, beyond their nationalism, beyond their racism, beyond their religionism. They do not see everybody as a child or daughter of God. And even when they're forced to, because they understand that there's only one God, they're still going to find some ways of continuing their racism or nationalism, whatever, saying, oh, God, yeah, they're all children of God, but God hates that group of children. He loves only us. They're so cute, human beings. So adorable, so childish. Hopefully an adult will show up sooner or later and bring us back into the fold. Right now, it appears we're living something akin to that story, that book, Lord of the Flies. Just a bunch of kids marooned on an island without adults, slowly becoming more animalistic until they're at each other's throats. That's kind of the story of planet Earth right now. But regardless, at least we can understand it at a molecular level and not let it destroy our souls, our minds, and our bodies, because we can understand the reasons why they are the way they are. We can understand what needs to be done, and if it can't be done in the outside world, at the very least, we can absorb, accept, and instill those higher ideas within us so that we at least don't go down the drain along with the whole wash that's circling the drain on this planet as we speak. I don't plan to go down that drain, do you? Good. So these religions, because they can't evolve, are stuck where they are. So Christianity, of course, because it's Paul's religion, and Paul could not instill the idea that we're all God's children into what was then a unbelievably racist and nationalist place like Rome. It's so ignorant, still fully pagan, hundreds of gods, thousands, all kinds of ridiculous ideas taught as holy edicts. He was a great compromiser. And at that point, unfortunately, just like today, religion of Jesus had to be compromised in order for at least some of his ideas to survive. It was a vicious, ugly world, and the religion of Jesus was not going to survive then. And it's still incredibly difficult. Only a few people, relative, really understand what his religion is. And his religion, of course, is the opposite of these evolutionary religions, where you have to abide by an outside source. First of all, it's not the God within. It's some priest or a Bible or a church that you have to subscribe to in order to be saved. Um, Religion of Jesus teaches the opposite, that you have to go inside, that there is a guide within you that will show you the truth. That truth is alive, it's a living thing, alive within you, that'll teach you, meeting you just where you are in understanding, raising you up one step at a time, according to where you are in your mentality, how much intelligence you do or don't have, what kind of situation you have in your life, and what kind of ideas what kind of childish ideas are still roaming around in your head, keeping you down, keeping you imprisoned, keeping your mind in a literal prison because you can't evolve beyond it, because you've simply accepted certain things that were taught to you or are believed in this lost world and taught as, obvious. Well, once you get to know the truth that is alive within you, as it will teach you step by step, those ideas are completely bonkers and wrong. And because you'll be turning right side up, this world is going to present problems to you as all these constructs that have formed in your mind start to buckle and the pillars that keep them up start to fall one by one. If it happens very rapidly, you'll have a nervous breakdown. So this process of growing in the truth has to be perforce slow and careful. It can only be done by your willingness and desire to have it done, regardless of the consequences, and then trusting that the inner being, the inner God within you, is going to guide you. That you don't have to worry, that it's trustable, that it's all perfect, always wants what's best for you. You start to let go, let go, and let go. I remember when I was going through that stage decades ago, it's a very scary thing because you're taught that everything is under your control and everything needs to be under your control. And this evolution is really kind of a metamorphosis. It is a slow process and it can be scary, especially in the beginning, because you're letting go and you're letting God. You're letting God guide you. You're understanding that there's something much, much smarter than you, more far-seeing than you, that lives in your mind, that if you allow it, will guide you step by step to eternity. It's not a joke. It's very, very real. The idea that all this stuff that's going on around us in this life is just an accident and was created for no reason, that's part of that artificial construct that's been implanted into our mindset since we were born, because that's what the world believes. The only way that you're going to escape those constructs and carefully removing the pillars that uphold these false ideas in your head and create conflict for you in this world. The only way to get rid of them is to trust, do what will be given to you, the task that will be given to you. Every day you're going through a lesson. Every situation in your life is representing a lesson that needs to be learned. For the Jewish people and the Muslim militants in that part of the world, the lesson is that love is the only way. It doesn't matter whether you believe it or not. That's just the way things are. And that's because that's the way God's created them. And no amount of bickering and throwing tantrums and fighting is going to ever change that. An eye for an eye is going to get you a very, very tense situation that you're not going to want. The only way, as God has designed it, is love. You have to love the other side. You have to want what's best for them. That is their lesson. But what is our lesson? What is your lesson today? Is there a coworker that's really on your case? What is the universe trying to bring you to? What is it trying to change in you to be able to withstand and overcome that challenge with this person at work? Why is your love life the way it is? What is it about you that's keeping it that way? What do you need to change? If you get into the mindset and the understanding that you have to think this way, you have to see life this way, mostly because that's the way it is. That is what's going on. You are being required to evolve, change, learn, get better. If you listen to it, and you just start that by just wanting to, that's a start that is acceptable. Just want to let go a little bit, and you'll understand what lessons are being brought to you day by day and what's expected of you to overcome them, to master them. Once you get on board with that, then your life is going to get steadily better. Because instead of crashing from one wall to another because of some unwise, incorrect way that you were seeing something, that you were reacting to something, once you get over that and you start to learn, your road gets more comfortable, less commotion, less fighting, less anger. Doesn't mean everything's going to be perfect at all, especially in this world right now. But life will start to get easier because you'll be actually, for the first time, actually in control. You thought you were in control before, and then you find that after you let go and let God, and you start to go with the plan and evolve the way you're supposed to, that, oh, actually, only now are you in control of your life. Because you can decide that I want this kind of an environment around me. Peaceful, loving, safe. And I've done something that can actually make those things happen. Whereas before, when you thought you were in control, you were a mess, hitting one wall after another. These are the lessons we all have to learn. It never ends. Even if you survive this world by understanding that you need to evolve, for all eternity, we'll still be improving. There's that much room, and there's that much potential in us. But in the beginning, we just have to understand and move beyond. If that requires you to leave your religious ideas behind, so be it. Bye-bye. Do you want your life to get better or not? Well, this is the way. It's been shown to you. You can prove it to yourself by trying it. And if you haven't, you have nobody to blame. My brothers and sisters, God is blameless, always innocent, always perfect. There's nothing you can hang on him. His life, his design is absolute perfection. Once you understand it and instill it and abide by it, you will be following the road to perfection. And that can only give you a peace and a happiness that surpasses understanding. In the name of my Master, my love, on this Christmas day, God bless you. Take care. Until next time.